Very good. Anyone else? Because there was some changes then, we will need a mover. Councillor Hibbs.
I'll make the motion that we adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. There was no other comments, so please go ahead and vote. And that is all green, so that is unanimously in favor. Thank you. And then with respect to the overall agenda, Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Could I add notice of motion, please?
Very good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any considerations for the overall agenda? Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Hopefully we've given, first off, is there anyone else? Hopefully we've given IT an opportunity to update that as amended. And just quickly reading as it scrolls by, and that is how it reads as amended. So please go ahead and vote. And similarly to the preceding one, that is unanimously in favor. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Hoekstra, let's start with your report.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. On my report, I just indicated that I went to FCM on the weekend, and I just wanted to publicly say how valuable it is to go to an event like that. So it's I really appreciate that we are able to build that into the budget of our city. It gives us an opportunity for team building, talking to people from all across the country. And that was, we talked to a gentleman from Montreal who is a municipal councillor there, Sylvain, and he talked to us a little bit about political parties. So that was interesting. And of course, we talked about homelessness with many, talked to a lady from Nelson about housing. But the biggest part is team building too. And while we're learning, we're getting to know our counselors, fellow counselors better. So I just wanted to highlight that and thank the city for that privilege.
And thank you for that. Additionally, there were some items with respect to bylaw 400.58 on the first reading as well.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Weirdly, I can't pull up my agenda right now, but in that bylaw, there is a notice for a public hearing. And in that public hearing notice, it says July 10th, and I believe it should be July 8th.
I would ask our legislative coordinator to verify that information. Certainly we want it to be correct, but if there's an error, we will see that it is in fact corrected.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. We do have on the presentation documents that it is that Council schedule a public hearing for bylaw 400.58 on Monday, July 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m.
There is an ad from the paper that there's a copy of it, and in that ad it says July 10th.
Okay, so in the paper.
Very good. Obviously a typo in regards to that, if in fact that is. And then for time frame wise, how is that going to affect the outcomes there? CAO Gowdy. Very good. Absolutely. Director Thompson, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I can see exactly what Councillor Hoekstra is pointing to. It's the ad. It's a date that's incorrect. It's no problem, though. As soon as the public hearing is set by council tonight, we will update the ad and make sure that it's corrected when it's published in the paper.
Very good. Councillor Hoekstra, we appreciate the eagle eye. Thank you. And let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. Not seeing a bunch of lights on here, but we do have some things to take care of prior to moving along on the agenda. Councillor Dallas.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Creasy. I believe you need a motion for first reading on that.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 400.58 as presented.
Thank you. Any additional input? Very good. Seeing none, go ahead and vote, please. Looks like to me we've got some people that have not input there yet. And you said yes. That's looking better. Thank you. That is unanimously in favor of first reading. And then with respect to the hearing, Councillor Hoekstra, did you want to do that one? Seeing as how you were good enough to notice that date error.
I was mistaken. Sorry, so I withdraw my comment about that.
Very good. You
I
can
was-
still make the motion.
Well, it's built, oh, just make the motion, okay. Thank you. I'll move that we have a public hearing on for bylaw 400.58 on July 8th. At 6 p.m.
Very good. So bylaw 400.58, Monday, July 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m., correct? Thank you. I see no additional input, so please proceed to vote. That is unanimously in favor as well. Regardless of any previous date errors, they will be corrected if need be and advertised as such. So thanks, everyone. All right, we do have a special guest here and has been very patient. Our member of the Legislative Assembly, Jennifer Johnson. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us this evening. And this evening, I think we've got a few areas of mutual interest that we're going to be discussing. Would you care to open?
Yes, thank you. I would be delighted. So there are 4 areas of interest. I think in considering the time that we have to be most efficient, I'll just go through all 4 of them and then perhaps we can have questions after if that's all right.
Certainly.
So we'll start first with the Lacombe Lodge project. I did put in a request to the minister, to Minister Nixon, and he responded this afternoon. So at 11:59, we got a response, and I don't know that you're going to be very happy with this, but he has informed me, in fact, that an application has never been submitted for this project. So I was also asked what steps can be taken to advance this project, and I would suggest getting the application in. So that is going to happen this fall. It is expected to open in the fall, and I have the link. I'm sure you can access that, but if you need it, I can definitely give you that link and get that ball moving. It is the Lacombe Foundation that is in charge of this, and working with the city, of course, and it would be really nice to see this application move forward. So that's the update on that, and I can give you a little bit more information if you want on some of the details, but that's the gist of it. And it'd be really nice to see this lodge move forward. It was built in 1963. It's one of the oldest ones in the province, and we all know how important this is. And not only to get a new lodge, but to expand on it as well, and perhaps serve our constituents in Blackfalds as well. The next one on the list is Bill 20, and I love that you mentioned the parties, Councillor Hoekstra, because it was one of the issues of debate and contention perhaps with Bill 20 that went through. I like this bill, most of it, the vast majority of it. Of course, no bill is going to be perfect, and I like most of it in there. That being said, I did host a town hall for the 6 municipalities, mostly on the west side of the constituency, and then a town hall for Alex and area to the east. That was just last week, and took away some points from those meetings and sent a letter to the minister literally this afternoon. And if you'd like, I can read that letter. I did CC you, Mayor Creasy, in on that, but I can read it. It's not very long.
I was going to say it's a relatively short one, so I would appreciate it if you would, for everyone's benefit, those watching at home as
To
well.
read it?
Certainly.
Sure. Dear Minister McIver, recently I met with all 7 of the municipalities within the Lacombe-Panoka constituency regarding issues around Bill 20. They have asked that I send a letter to you with some of their questions, concerns, and frustrations around the bill, and have requested a response to these issues. Many expressed concern that the vote of 70% against the proposal of municipal parties was ignored, and even announced at the last RMA convention that this proposal was going to happen anyway. It was also expressed that Bill 20 feels like all municipalities are being punished when only a few are the concern. One mayor even stated, in order to punish the bad guys, we all got kept in for recess. This has affected the relationship between municipalities and the province. They all stated that a good working relationship is something they desire and require. When asked what the top concern was about Bill 20, one Reeve responded immediately that he could live with just about everything in this bill, even some issues he didn't agree with, but they were not hills to die on. There were 2 phrases that he could not live with and that he claimed, if kept in, could be empowering a monster. The first phrase is in section 179.1, subsection 1B. Public interest is a phrase that is open to interpretation and can give unlimited power to any government. The second phrase is from section 603.01E. Contrary to a policy of the government. This phrase also carries the potential to give unlimited power to any government. Many confirmed their disapproval and the desire to have these 2 phrases removed from the bill. Minister, I do thank you for reading this and for your interest in our rural ridings. Please provide a response that I can bring back to my concerned elected officials. Thank you for your time. Yours truly, Jennifer Johnson. So that was sent to the minister today, and as we receive a response, I can keep you updated on that.
Thank you.
There's a lot in Bill 20, and if any of you are concerned about any of the issues in there, I'd be happy to go through that at another time so we don't take up more of your time this evening. Number 3 was the Gull Lake feasibility study. And I'm not going to assess if this was good news or bad news. I'll let you be the judge of that. But after a lot of work, even consulting with their municipalities again, with the meeting, and I wish I would have put the date down, but it was Mayor Creasy, you were there. We sent that letter off to the ministry. We have received a response about 2 weeks ago, and I will read that out for you as well. Thank you for your letter requesting funding for water flow studies for Gull Lake, as well as the corresponding resolutions from Lacombe County, the City of Lacombe, and the Summer Village of Parkland Beach, and letters of support from Panoka County and the Gull Lake Watershed Society. The Watershed Stewardship Grant is available to assist community stewardship efforts. The grants are typically around $10,000 and can be leveraged with municipal or other grant funding opportunities. More information is available at, and they list the resources, and then just gave 2 more resources. So basically what they're saying is, if you want to carry this forward, here's the link to apply for a feasibility study grant, and you may take it forward on your own. So I have responded with an email to all the stakeholders in this and have handed it over to the Gull Lake Watershed Society, and they are going to take it forward. and we're just waiting. So I was wishing for better news. And we'll see where this goes. And the last one is hydrogen initiatives. And I was a little bit curious about this. As the provincial champion for hydrogen, can MLA Johnson share her vision for the role of hydrogen in the future? Unfortunately, I don't know if I can because I'm not sure I have a vision, but I can tell you I got to take a ride in the hydrogen car at the legislature, and it was really interesting. I'm not going to say fun. It just is. It's a Toyota, but it was fun. And that when we stopped at a light, the lady next to us immediately put her window down and had a conversation with us, and she was more excited than anybody. Is that a hydrogen car? And she was beyond exuberant, we'll say. And that was probably the most fun part, is to be just riding around Edmonton a little bit with this and with this car. I had an opportunity to go to the hydrogen plant, and unfortunately I had another commitment, so I could not attend that tour. I'm not sure where hydrogen is going to go in the future. It's very interesting. I know the Minister of Service and Red Tape Reduction, Minister Nally, is passionate about this. There is currently one refueling station. It's at the airport in Edmonton. They have, I believe, 100 hydrogen cars on site for their own personal use, and they are using them. The goal is to see 5,000 cars in Alberta, I believe, in the next 5 years. So they're aggressively moving forward with this. There's a hydrogen plant in Sherwood Park, and we'll see where it goes. Beyond that, that's about all I can share, and that's about all I know of it so far. I did do a small speech on it in the chamber one day, mostly asking the minister questions about it so that he could elaborate, and so he's always very excited and eager to do that. I know that we are Canada's hydrogen leader in the economy of this for export and for usage within our own province for heating and for transportation. And that's maybe an exciting path to go down. I really don't know at this point. So they're lighter than the electric cars. Like, they are an electric car, to be clear, but it's a lot lighter than the massive batteries that are in the Teslas driving, or in the big buses that they had to build new garages for and then never got used. So that's a bonus. And so that's a really quick oversight of all four of those issues, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, MLA Johnson. Appreciate the format. I think that's good. Certainly, the number one item on this list, for very good reason, is the Lacombe Lodge project.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I can understand the response that was given to you. We have in the past been led to believe that we would likely be eligible for a grant for the project. CEO Gowdy, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the amount was approximately 30% of the project.
Yep, that's what I was just confirming actually with Director Lapointe, and that's what we had in our mind as well, that it was 30%. To be fair to the Lacombe Foundation, they are reflecting the direction of their board, who has felt that 30% does not make the project a viable financial endeavor.
Right. And any chance I can take to make this public is a good thing, because I think it's everyone agrees this is an important project. However, to bring it to fruition, it's going to take some funds. I mean, that's great for surrounding communities and the city and whatnot to try and be involved in whatever capacity we can. However, this is primarily a multi-jurisdictional issue, which makes it a provincial one, as far as I'm concerned. And given certainly within the past decade, we have examples of nearby communities, I think primarily to the south of us, that were allotted one, I believe it was 100% of the project.
In Innisfail.
Now, of course, that would be our preference. However, I think there's a reasonable expectation for all parties to come to the table and chip on a project that is this important and of that magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. However, for the facility itself to be expected to have some huge reserves is extremely unrealistic. It's the current facility is provided basically at minimal cost to its residents and based off certainly a percentage of their gross annual income. So it really does not leave any room to build any kind of an appreciable capital reserve. I think they do rather well and have in the past demonstrated so that they do well with their maintenance funds and their ongoing stuff. But to have capital reserve on top of it, that would be somewhat of a miracle, I think. So somewhere we've got to come up with a better way of portraying the importance of this to the area. This isn't just a Lacombe thing,
No,
as you know, but I think everybody needs to know in the public needs to know this is not just for Lacombe residents. It's important to the entire area, if not the province. And I think that certainly our seniors deserve it, and we deserve to have a place for dignity for them to reside. So any suggestions that you're able to come with to help expedite this would be greatly appreciated, because it's been a priority for council for quite some time. And while we've explored a lot of different avenues, we've not been particularly effective at it thus far, I think is the most polite way to put it. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Thank you, Emily Johnson, for coming in, by the way. I sit on the Lacombe Foundation. Is it possible for you to forward that, the minister's response to the mayor, who can get it to me? I just find it curious that he says application has not been made, because it has been made a few times over. Now, maybe there's a new application. I don't know. You mentioned there were links. Did you say there were links within his response?
Yep.
Yeah, that would be marvelous if we could.
there's a link to the application. That is, it says LCF, which is the application process, has not submitted, sorry, Lacombe Foundation has not submitted an affordable housing partnership program application to date for this project. So it is not a funding issue. The funding would be there in the 30%. And I've spoken with the minister on this several times, and as I know you have as well, Mayor. And it's a application problem we have.
Yeah, it seems to be.
And that surprises me too.
A new application, it would seem, because this project has been submitted.
I can certainly forward it on to you.
That would be terrific, and then we
Yeah,
can
to you
run this
and-
back
And,
to myself, to the mayor, then he can send it to me however you want to do it.
okay,
But that would be
certainly.
great, and then we can look at that more in depth, because like I say, it's been submitted, but maybe this is a new application, whatever the case may be, but that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So not to belabor the point.
Yeah.
I really have no doubt that we would be successful, or they would be successful with the 30%.
Can't hear you.
I just want to make it perfectly clear that I think that they would be successful with the application for the 30%. However, for the reasons that I outlined earlier, 30% might as well be zero. This project is not viable with only a 30% allocation from the government of Alberta. We've got to bring on board some, whether it's various departments or however it is, but 30% does not cut it. It will not work. There is no other partners that are in position to put in 70% of this project. If they do exist, we're not aware of them. And then any other input for this item? Very good. How about any of the others? You're getting off pretty easy tonight. Not seeing any. I do want to thank you for coming and speaking with us, and we'll see that those both those letters are distributed with council with your permission, and I'm sure we'll be in contact soon and look forward to speaking with you again.
Both letters, which two did you want?
The one that you forwarded me already, and then the one with respect to
For the lodge.
Minister
Yep.
Nixon.
We'll do that. Thank you for the invitation.
Great.
Yeah.
We doing for time? Oh, okay. See, Ogata, we've got at least 6 minutes to utilize. 6.3, or what do you think? What are you thinking?
Yeah, 6.3, we can certainly introduce, and if it goes longer, that's fine, as you know.
Yeah.
You just can't start early, so
Yeah, I would like to have
that
it
would
move all over.
actually, I'm sure, help Senior Manager McKinnon have an earlier evening.
Good
The floor is
evening.
yours, Senior Manager McKinnon. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. Tonight, I'm here to present the Q1 variance report for the City of Lacombe for 2024. The timeline of the report is from January 1st to March 31st, 2024. Overall revenues are 242,000 lower than budget for the first quarter. Franchise fees are higher by 137,000, mostly because of the utility usage in the winter months. Goods and services revenue are under budget by 127,000, attributed to lower security clearance revenue and timing of building rental revenue. Interest and penalties are 162,000 higher than budget. 53,000 of this is due to penalties on property taxes. Interest and penalties are 162,000 higher than budget. Pardon me, sorry though. Other sources of budget are under budget by approximately 104,000 due to vehicle sales and items not expected. Permits, fines, and licenses are under budget by 68,000. 37,000 of this is because of business license revenue collection, and 22,000 of the shortfall is due to the collection of police fines. Overall expenses are 3.4 million under budget, largely due to timing of budget entries on our part. Debt and banking charges are under budget by 1.4 million because of timing of journal entries. This will reverse in April. Transfer to reserves are under budget by 1.2 million, again because of timing of journal entries. Funding to others is under budget by 180,000 because of water and wastewater services. Goods and services is 453,000 or 21% under budget for the first quarter, but we expect the surplus to decrease as the year progresses. Requisitions are over budget by 176,000 due to timing differences with the budget again. The net year-to-date surplus is 3.15 million, largely because of budget timing differences for revenue and debt expense and transfer to reserves. The next variance report of January to June should shed a little bit more light on actual variances, and that will be presented in August. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Not seeing the place light up like a Christmas tree on this one, are we?
No.
That just means you did a wonderful job of the report.
No, it's a lot of-
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I think you said it best. Yeah, did an excellent job. It's, you know, it sounds fantastic, and then it's always nice to hear the next one when it's a little more reasonable, I guess, and fairly distributed. So with that, I will make the motion that council acknowledges the 2024 Q1 financial report as information.
Thanks, Councillor Dallas. Anyone else? Please go ahead and vote. Forgive me while we discuss a procedural item. Apparently not. So with those legitimate questions, we have cleverly wasted enough time that we're precisely at 6 o'clock. You bet, absolutely. That was unanimously in favor for the approval of the financial report as information. Thanks, everyone. Right on time for our land use bylaw public hearing. And it is 6:01 p.m. So I declare the statutory public hearing for bylaw 400.55 now open. The hearing is held pursuant to sections 7, 8, 230, 606, 640, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act 2000 as amended. And request our legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised as required by the city's advertising bylaw, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into the record. Coordinator Bellabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the general public to provide input to the proposed amending bylaw 400.55, given first reading May 13th, 2024. Bylaw 400.55 proposes to amend Land Use Bylaw 400. If approved, Bylaw 400.55 will redesignate the subject site from residential mixed R4 district and residential multi-unit dwelling district R5 to residential detached district R1, green space district GS, and utility district UT. In accordance with the city's advertising bylaw 482 and section 606 of the MGA requirements for advertising, a public hearing notice was advertised on the city website and in the Lacombe Express on Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, and Thursday, May 30th, 2024, as shown in the agenda package. Mayor Creasy and Council, no written submissions were received, and the city received no registrations from the members of the public to speak this evening.
Thank you for that. I'd like to remind all persons giving the oral presentations this evening are to be clear or precise and to the point and clearly state their name, and presentations will be made in the following order for the statutory public hearing. First off, our development officer or designate, followed by those in favor, and those opposed. And finally, any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard this evening. In fact, we do have a designate, which is our Senior Development Officer, Dooley. Whenever you are ready, the floor is yours, Myra.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is for bylaw 400.55. It's for redesignation of lot 8 and 9, block 7, plan 042 4116, which is just off of Beardsley Avenue. This is to amend the zoning designation on a 1.42 hectare parcel of land located in the College Heights Outline Plan area. The parcels are currently designated residential mixed district, which is R4, and residential multi-unit dwelling district, which is R5. The redesignation will allow for construction of single detached housing consistent with the College Heights Outline Plan. The parcels will be subdivided and lots are being pre-marketed will be sold. This is an aerial of the subject properties, so that is lot 8 and 9, and the civic address as it exists today is 4722 and 4902 Beardsley Avenue. The proposal would redesignate the subject site from R4 and R5 to 19 residential detached district lots, R1, green space district GS, which is there'd be 3 of those, and utility district UT, which would be 1. Subdivision is being processed concurrently with the proposed redesignation to create those 19 detached dwelling district parcels, 3 municipal reserve or green space, and 1 public utility or utility district parcel. This also will result in the creation of 1 new roadway. So for the proposed development design, this is highlighting where the different types of parcels will be located. So it is in a cul-de-sac form, and then the 3 green arrows there are highlighting the small portions of the GS district. And then the blue arrow points to a small strip of public utility lot as well. These are some site photos from last week that I took out on site. So this is facing towards the body of water, and some trees were removed. And this is from the west side of the property, showing an existing fence line, again, looking towards the pond. And this is the current advertising on site, which does have the roadway listed as Henner's Place. For planning documents pertaining to this proposed redesignation, the municipal development plan, the future land concept map identifies a subject area as future residential development. And within the North Area Structure Plan, the area is shown as general residential lands. And it meets policy 5.1.4 to ensure a high standard of subdivision design to promote the efficient use of land, roads, and utilities, the effective conservation of natural features, and compatibility among adjacent land uses, including housing types. The College Heights Outline Plan was also recently amended in October of 2023, and the proposed amendment in front of council today is consistent with the outline plan. These are the surrounding adjacent land uses as highlighted in the land use bylaw. As for the street name, if the bylaw amendment is approved, a new road will be created. The applicant is proposing to name the new road Henner's Place. The name could potentially create some confusion as there are some other road names that already utilize Henner's. However, the applicant has been marketing the proposed lots as being located at Henner's Place. And given the proximity to Henner's Pond, the name could be seen to provide consistency or a shared theme. In summary, the proposed redesignation is to R1, GS, and UT is consistent with Lacombe statutory plans. The College Heights Outline Plan amended last year shows the site as an R1 area. Existing trails will be retained, and a new road will be created proposed to be named Henner's Place. Staff recommendation is that council gives second reading to bylaw 400.55 as presented, and that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 400.55 at the same meeting as second reading, and that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.55 as presented, and that council ratifies Henner's Place as the street name for the newly created road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I would ask that anyone who wishes to speak in favor of bylaw 400.55, please step forward. Welcome. I'll remind you just to do exactly what you did. Thank you.
Your Worship, members of council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this application tonight. My name is Gordon Lau with Stantec. I am the applicant on behalf of the developer. I actually don't have anything necessarily new or anything specific to say. I just wanted to be here in case there were any questions or comments from yourself or council members. At the same time, I do want to make sure that we thank administration for the support on this project throughout since last fall. This project does have some unique challenges to it related to the grades, servicing, and also just that it is a fairly significant change from what it originally was. As previously mentioned, the application that you do see in front of you is consistent with the work that was completed last fall, and that did include the extensive change to various municipal documents and then also the community engagement process that was associated with that. Other than that, I know the developers are excited to get going, and I noticed that picture earlier with the tree clearing. They did complete the tree clearing earlier, kind of in beginning of April, just prior to the Migratory Bird Act, and all of that was in preparation of trying to move some dirt and some development this year. They are currently in detailed design. As previously mentioned, subdivision process is concurrently, and we do have a conditional subdivision, and a lot of that would be based on tonight's decision. And then lastly, as mentioned, the lots themselves are currently on pre-sale. So I know the developer's excited to get going here, and I know that I'm sure the community is excited to get some really unique and nice lots up in this northern area. So with that, if there's any questions or comments, please let me know.
Thank you. And if we have anyone else who would choose to speak in favor of bylaw 400.55. I'm not seeing anyone stepping forward, but third and final call. Those in favor wish to speak on bylaw 400.55. I do not see any, so I will ask for anyone that is opposed and wishes to speak on bylaw 400.55. Now is your opportunity. And I see no takers. So I'll do second and third call. Those wishing to speak on in opposition of bylaw 400.55. Seeing none, I'll move on to any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. This is your opportunity. Please come forward. I believe we've had sufficient opportunity for those who wish to speak to do so. And at this point, 6:11 p.m., I will declare the public hearing for bylaw 400.55 closed. And I think we will move into requests for decision. Item 6.1, related item for bylaw 400.55, the land use bylaw amendment and rezoning for 4722 and 4902 Beardsley Avenue to R1. Before us for second and perhaps third reading. Manager Hackett, whenever you've prepared your notes there, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor Creasy, members of council. As presented by Senior Officer Dooley tonight, administration are recommending approval of bylaw 400.55 as proposed. The bylaw does meet the College Heights Outline Plan, the North Area Structure Plan, and the Municipal Development Plan after these were amended in October of 2023. Tonight's land use bylaw amendment proposes to create R1 lots, as well as we heard some GS lots, and those will protect the existing trail and be dedicated as municipal reserve, and a utility lot to serve as public utility, and a UT lot to serve as a public utility lot. A road will be created. So this road needs a name. It was never envisioned when it was a multifamily site, but now if the rezoning proceeds tonight, a little cul-de-sac will be required. Administration are supporting the street name proposed by the developer, which would be Henner's Place. And in closing, it is recommended that council approve second reading of bylaw 400.55 and proceed to approval of third reading tonight as well, and to please ratify the street name as proposed as Henner's Place. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Hackett. One item I was curious about, if you could just tell me what sort of a percentage the green space district represents of this overall proposal. The reason I ask is I think it's, at least graphically, it appears to be very little. And I was just curious if there was some other arrangements made for green space, or is this?
Mayor Creasy, you're correct. It is a very small percentage. It's probably 1 or 2% only. The municipal reserve owing for this parcels of land was dedicated many years ago in the full subdivision. So this is additional over and above the 10% that we normally would require. And this developer was very generous in offering this because of the existing trail, wanting to retain the trail and ensuring that it wasn't right against the property line, so having enough a municipal reserve around the existing trail. So it's 210 square meters, I'm told, out of a 1.4 hectare 2 property. So I guess that is about 1%, 2%.
Very good. But
Thank
the
you.
reason I want to bring it forward is that this in fact is over and above the requirement, and there's been arrangements made perhaps off this parcel, but on the larger overall development, that those commitments were met.
Yes, at the time, there is no municipal reserve owing. This is over and above. I'll just check. There may be some further negotiations on any trail that encroaches, I'm told, but they are dedicating this this space as part of this rezoning tonight.
Very good, thank you. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd just like to say I'm excited about this project. I was at the public, I wasn't hearing, I guess it was just open to the public to show them this upcoming subdivision. I thought it looks great. Look forward to seeing the development and the challenges that you have to overcome. Will be many, but it should be a real good addition to our community. So I'd like to make the motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 400.55 as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Gullickson. Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, I have no concerns with this, and if as they say, they're interested in moving forward this quickly, that would be amazing for the community, and I think it would be beneficial. This is just it's a comment, and I saw it in the previous zoning. It's the second time I've seen for sale signs with it already advertised as the pre-designated, and I don't want people to think that that makes this a shoe-in, that it still goes through the proper channels and it's not persuasive. It just looks bold to me, but it's not an influence for a decision. So thank you.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I know when this was first brought to us, the challenge was cited with topography. Of the lots, how many will be responsible for their own sewage pump outs, like tie-ins into the system? Like I know, do you know offhand or no? Because the ones along the street, obviously along Beardsley, shouldn't be an issue, but I'm thinking for the rest of them.
Through your worship, detailed design is still currently happening, with the grading exercise being kind of the most significant challenge of this. I don't have the exact number, but I believe that basically around lots 4 to 14, I don't know if any, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, probably about 11 or 12 lots would be utilizing the low pressure sanitary system. And what that means is just that within the basements or outside of each of the property, they would have a grinder pump in there, and that system would pump the sanitary into the main that's within the roadway. And I think the reason we did that is that then a lot of the responsibilities would fall onto the homeowners rather than any additional system or maintenance from a city standpoint.
Thank you for that. And I have no doubt that the engineering on it is fine. I guess I just want to ensure that future property owners are definitely aware of that, I would say, somewhat unusual situation. It's not that it's uncommon, not unheard of, but it's not common in the city. So is that something that follows the title, or how are future owners of those properties made aware of that system?
Yeah, absolutely. Your worship, it's definitely not common in most municipalities. There are some kind of communities that we can find throughout Central Alberta that does have them. In discussion with the developer here, the decision is that it would be put onto the title itself, so that each homeowner's purchasing one of these would be aware of the system that they have. Similar to other projects with similar systems to each homeowner is kind of given a contact information. Usually what they do is they work with kind of one installer or one business that kind of deals and maintains these systems. And so that kind of becomes the local contact for this entire block itself. And so residents would kind of get to know the people that they're working on in the future.
Very good. I'm very glad to hear that. Would be my preference. Once again, I have no issue with the engineering behind it. Just that sometimes with these types of less common methodologies, 10 or 20 or 30 years down the line, all of a sudden, if by chance there is an issue on one of the properties or whatnot, then quite often that is reflected back upon the municipality. And following the title, I think that makes it much cleaner, clearer. Any additional comments or questions? Very good. We do have a motion before us. It's brought forward by Councillor Dallas. I'm sorry, Councillor Gullickson, for second reading. So please go ahead and vote now. And that is unanimously in favor. Thank you. Are there any other considerations with this item? Councillor Dallas?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Since it didn't seem like there was many concerns, make the motion that council resolves to consider third reading of bylaw 400.55 at this same meeting as second reading.
Thank you very much. That a motion like that might seem odd to some watching either from the gallery or at home. However, I think that is a valuable way for people to put their desires forward without having unintended consequences with an item like this. So are there any other considerations for the motion before us? The council resolves to consider it's both second and third reading at the same meeting. Please go ahead and vote. By the looks of that unanimously in favor vote, there is some desire to consider third reading. Councillor Konik.
I would so move that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.55 as presented.
Very good. Final opportunity for input. Please go ahead and vote. And third reading is unanimously in favor as well. Congratulations. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Konik.
I believe there's one more motion that council ratifies Henner's Place as the proposed street name for the newly created road.
I was hoping that we would make your colleagues sweat a little and not put that one through this evening. Thank you for that, Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a question through to our planning department. Was there any other considerations given for different names for this crescent or cul-de-sac?
Through the chair to Councillor Gullickson, the alternative was Henner's Cove.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I realize this is probably going to come across as being very nitpicky, but it is something that's actually a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when we talk about planning and development in this community. I don't understand why this isn't dear close. So for example, we've got a few examples in the community where a road, for no reason at all, changes names, and Brownstone Road turning into Terrace Heights Drive, for example, is one of those. And I find situations like that to be confusing. And I do agree that this being Henner's Place is going to be confusing with Henner's Outlook and Crescent and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not in favor of this. However, I also have to ask the question then to administration, do we have guiding principles that we use to give names? Because for me, I feel like it would be better planning if a road that's on one side that continues across not a major collector road would continue to be the same name, and that you don't have repetition of Henner's this, Henner's that, or Smith this or Smith that. And so, and I also, to somewhat echo Councillor Dallas's point earlier about being a little bit bold, it is a bit disappointing to have something advertised when it actually has not been named yet. And so while that's not a huge deal, again, I'm being nitpicky on this, but I think it's just these fine details that we should be buttoning up. So if there isn't rules in place about how things are named, I think that that's something that we should look at, because I would like to see greater consistency across the community, especially as we develop. We're not finished growing. We're going to continue growing. And I really don't like repetitious names. I like it so that it makes sense, so that when you say that I live on this street, it's easy for me to know which one that is and not have to go, okay, was that a place, or did he say Crescent, or did he say road, right? So that's my only point. So because of that, I will be voting against this motion, just in principle. But yeah, that would be my question to administration, if there is rules in place.
Anyone else? With respect to the policy in place, I'm forgetting your title, Manager Dooley.
Through the chair to Councillor Hibbs. So I do understand where you're coming from. The city does have a civic addressing policy, which was adhered to in this circumstance. We are bound by that. The applicant is the one who initiates a set of names to give administration. We don't propose names the other way. And one of the policies or things within the civic addressing policy is that we do want repetition in some areas. So there is a policy that was followed, but there are points within that policy that I feel like could have some consideration as well.
So Manager Hackett, your colleague was not quick to correct by name. I was going to say, if I'd have said junior development officer, would you have corrected me then? No. You don't need to answer that. I'm just kidding you. Anyone else? After some discussion, I'll have our coordinator read back that motion.
The motion on the floor by Councillor Connick is that council ratifies Henner's Place as the proposed street name for the newly created road.
Thank you. Final chance for input. Very good. Please go ahead and vote. And that is passed by a margin of 6-1. So noted, Councillor Hibbs. Thank you. Director Thompson, next up we have the 2023-2024 snow clearing annual report. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy, and good evening, council members. Today, I'm here to present the annual review of our snow clearing policy with insights and outcomes from the 2023 to 24 snow clearing operations. Our discussion today will encompass the performance of our snow clearing activities, proposed policy modifications, and the feedback we've received from the public. The administration is recommending that council adopt a revised snow clearing policy tonight. The 2023-24 season marked a significant shift in our approach as we began hauling snow on most roads instead of windrowing it. This change aligns with the funding adjustments from council to improve our snow clearing practices and address public concerns that come with windrowed stockpiles. While the city needs 1 or 2 more full seasons to adjust its operations to accommodate the new service level, administration invites council's input on the new service delivery so far. Enclosed in the RFD or in the report are several attachments that outline each of the city's key service delivery areas with respect to snow clearing. And so I'll just summarize each of those tonight. Within the roads area, city crews manage snow and ice for a total of 36 days and sanded roads for 44 days. Priority 1 and 2 roads were cleared frequently for 21 operational days. However, meeting the 96-hour clearing timeline for P2 roads is a challenge. And in the last 3 seasons, the timeline has been around 120 hours from start to finish. Priority 3 residential road clearing started on February 13th and halted on March 15th due to an early unseasonal melt, which meant only half of the city's P3 roads were cleared as resources were directed to managing the warm melting conditions. Also, early indications are that P3 roads under the revised service levels will take about 30 days to complete from start to finish, which does exceed the current policy target of 24 days. Administration is not recommending changes to the service level timelines or resources on the snow clearing service levels until crews have adjusted to hauling snow off-site. In the interim, administration will continue to report roads snow clearing timelines in its annual report to council. In the area of sidewalks, walkways, and trails, the Parks Department reports having met their clearing targets without overtime, ensuring safe and accessible pathways for our community. Bylaw enforcement issued 29 tickets for non-compliance during snow removal operations and reports successfully resolving 59 cases through direct communication. Public communications, we maintained a communication strategy utilizing social media to inform residents about snow clearing schedules and their responsibilities under the traffic bylaw. Snow and ice clearing costs for 2023 were $93,500, well within our budget of $200,000. However, we anticipate that a season with average snowfall and temperatures will require full budget utilization. P3 roads are the roads where most of the hauling costs are incurred, and with only half of the roads cleared last year, we do feel that the full budget would be utilized in an average year. With respect to public feedback, we have received various requests for service changes, notably from residents in Iron Wolf and Terrace Ridge subdivisions, and concerns about parking during snow removal. For the 2024-25 season, we propose the following policy modifications: aligning the policy with our commitment to haul snow off-site, updating references to reflect the new traffic bylaw, and then making various clerical and formatting improvements throughout the bylaw. Included in the alternative section of the RFD for council's consideration, but not included in administration's recommendation, is an option to reclassify specific roads from P3 to P2 based on public feedback. And those include North Star Drive, Telford Crescent, and Elizabeth Lake Drive. Administration's recommended motions tonight are that council approves the snow clearing policy recommended by administration and that council rescinds the snow clearing policy. Our goal is that the snow clearing operations ensure the safe and accessibility of our roads, sidewalks, and public spaces. And I look forward to your feedback today on the service level performance so far.
Thanks, Director Thompson. Question from Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Director Thompson, I'd like to say that most of the comments I heard were regarding the trails, and they're extremely positive, and everyone was thanking me for keeping the trails clean. It wasn't me, of course, but no, what a great job on that, and I'd like you to pass it on to the staff. The trail system was something that people really appreciated, and the fact that they could get out and run and do their walks was greatly appreciated.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I too want to thank you for this report, that it's very clearly embedded in here when citizens ask questions, that there is a response or a consideration of their questions or concerns about certain areas of the town, or the city. And I really appreciated seeing that in here. So thank you very much. I do want a little bit of clarification about the type of motions that you're suggesting or alternatives. So the North Star Drive situation, the concern there is that they have, could you remind me of the concern of North Star Drive, why we would consider changing it from P3 to P2?
Thanks, Councillor Hoekstra. And so North Star Drive, as well as the other drives, they're fed from conversations with community members who have suggested that these roads just they would benefit from more frequent clearing, and that when the clearing just from more frequent clearing due to various factors. And so the adjustment from P3 to P2 would certainly do that. Of course, that means additional resources are put to trying to achieve those service levels as well on those roads.
Director Thompson, on the policy at the back there, you've got a few instances where areas are indicated with a red X under the clear and windrow column, which would suggest to me that those in fact were being moved from a haul to a clear and windrow only. And there are very few, given the quantity on those policy pages. What's the rationale for the vast majority of those to have been backed off from the haul category and put on the clear and windrow?
So what we do when we look at which roads are eligible for hauling versus clearing, we want to make sure that our resources are put towards removing the windrow where it impacts sidewalks or is in a more urbanized environment. And so there are areas in Lacombe, especially on, say, Highway 12 on the west end or Highway 12 on the east end, where there are ditches on either side of the road. In those cases, we're just clearing the snow off the road into the ditch. Essentially, we're not hauling it away to our snow dump facility. And so also there are instances where there's a boulevard or a green space, for example, that is without a sidewalk that is enclosed in a subdivision. And so on some roads where the crews are able to push all the snow onto, say, a green space and have it stockpile off the road there, that the decision was made to do that. And so that's something that's a part of the adjustments that the crews are making and looking at which roads exactly work best under this new scenario. So that most roads are hauled, but there are still a few that are cleared based on just the physical ability for the roads to handle some of that snow without impacting sidewalks.
And certainly that's understandable. I guess it was just the idea that some of them were being reversed. I was just wondering what expectations or circumstances had led to them, I don't want to say being downgraded, but being removed from the haul to a clear windrow situation.
Thanks for that clarification. I think in some cases, it's more so that the road was split into two. And so where under the previous policy, it would have been one segment of street was all cleared, but now we're saying portion of that street is cleared and a portion of that street is now hauled. So it's reflected as two different line items on the policy. And so where it has a red X under the cleared, it doesn't necessarily mean it was moved from hauled to cleared. It's just that it was split from all one method into two different methods, and we want to delineate those.
Okay, and that certainly helps. And given that I was a strong proponent of this, I guess I wanted to be clear with areas like Highway 2 because of I expect rather heavy volume. I can see why that isn't necessarily being hauled away now. However, I would hope that we are working towards even areas like that being included at one point in time, because all of the other benefits still hold true to it. The aggregate and salt and whatnot being put on the greenery and the shrubs and stuff kills them as much on Highway 2 as it does anywhere else in the city. So I appreciate this measured approach and adding streets on as we go. I just don't want to see some areas be put off too far into the future because they still warrant the same benefits that I hope this policy will have over time as well. Councillor Hoekstra?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Just a further question in regard to these 3 areas that potentially could be classified from P3 to P2. That suggestion is based on comments from 1 year, correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So a lot of what you're suggesting here is that this winter wasn't necessarily a good measure on the service level on lots of fronts because we didn't get to kind of half the streets in one regard or one area. And then this is only one area. Is it possible to just save this information and say, let's just run things as we did this year one more time? And then if those 3 areas are still presenting as difficult, that we would consider them in the next snow clearing policy? Because, yeah, I think we should have due diligence here that just because 1 year was bad, we don't jump and change policy for that consideration. And yet I really, really appreciate their concerns. So that's a possibility.
It's certainly a possibility. We will carry that forward as previous considerations or past feedback that we've carried forward today. We'll carry that forward to the next one. We'll have to decide on how long we want to do that before it kind of drops off, but certainly for the next report, we can do that.
Councillor Konik?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So for my own clarification, in the recommended motion, the council approves the snow clearing policy 32-2- or -211.01 2024 PO does not include those 3 streets. Is that correct?
It does not include those 3 streets. There's a separate alternative motion at the end of the RFD for council's consideration if they wish to also include those 3 streets.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, my question actually is along the same lines. So those are ones that have been brought to our attention specifically by residents, but they haven't been necessarily put against some other possible roads that are possibly a higher priority to be moved up in priority. That's a lot of priorities. Only because like I'm looking at the map myself and I'm thinking priority 2s are supposed to be like primary and secondary roads. Well, there's a number of secondary roads that aren't included in the priority 2. For example, the Elizabeth Park Boulevard isn't on that list, but you could definitely consider that to be a major road. So like, why isn't that included? And then, so I definitely agree with Councillor Hoekstra about, let's keep track of that. We'll mind of it, but not make a change at this moment in time. The only one that I wanted to ask a question on more specifically was there is a segment of road that goes to our city boundary north of Woodland Drive. So it's 58th as it heads out towards the now dead end. Just curious that part that is north of Woodland Drive, why is that a priority 2? It doesn't really go anywhere. It seems like that should stop at Woodland Drive and not continue as a priority 2, that should then become just be a priority 3. Oh, and sorry, one more thing is, and I think it's just maybe because there's not space for it, but on Telford Crescent, the part that's closest to the school, that should in fact be green, but it isn't indicated as such on the nice colorful map. But that might just be because the word Telford kind of covers it up. But that was a bit confusing to a resident when they were trying to explain that they thought that was a priority 2, but it wasn't showing as a priority 2. So just giving that feedback as well.
To the question around 58th Street North, I don't have a specific answer as to why that one's 2 versus 3. Certainly, we have to get back to you on that segment and see if there's a history there. And then thanks for the feedback on the Telford. We'll look into that. Clarify.
So certainly this is an item that where snow removal, road condition in general is probably, if there's going to be input from public, sometimes positive, maybe not that as common as we'd like. I sure hope that we have this particular document easily available. Just electronically is fine, but it would be really nice if those individuals who would suggest that snow removal is not to their liking, whether it's at their residence or wherever it may be, the amount of thought and preparation has went into this to try and best utilize resources to come up with a plan that works best for our community. Hopefully this gets the point across, because as all of council has done in the past, I'm sure you've told many, many people what goes into this and the amount of complexity it is. Once they look at a few of these maps and the list of streets, and they're just to realize what a massive undertaking this is each year. So let's make sure it's easily available off the website. So when those individuals need to reference it, that they can do so easily. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think we have to keep in mind that this is a introduced level of service that we haven't accommodated before. And I think we have to give some grace to our administration and our staff that the various different years of snowfall and the amounts at certain times is a kind of a factor that out of our hands. And I think there's going to be adjustments every year. And I think we expect certain streets or whatever to be included, I guess, from this discussion, but having the frequency or the amount, it's going to, and then to meet a certain time frame, I think it's something that's going to meet a bit of adjustment every year. So.
Councillor Hoekstra.
I'd like to make that motion that council approves the snow clearing policy 32, I don't know, /211.01 2024 PO.
Thank you for that. You want to have any additional questions or input? Very good. Seeing none, please go ahead and vote. And that is unanimously in favor. Thanks, everyone. Councillor Hoekstra.
I'd like to move, thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd like to move that council rescind the snow clearing policy 32/211.01 2022 PO.
With all this administrative housekeeping done as we go through these, I really wonder what administration and council will do in 100 years when there isn't all these exciting things to get rid of, like we've went through over the last five years. Very good. Any questions? Please go ahead and vote. And that is passed unanimously as well. In favor, thank you. I believe that is all of our requests for decision. Taking us down to category number 7, notices of motion. Councillor Gullickson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'd like to make a notice of motion that council advises administration to look into the feasibility of selling the Lacombe Airport.
So with a notice of motion that may require some administrative effort, when would a reasonable expectation be for, are we going to go ahead, CAO Gowdy?
So just as a reminder, it's just a notification of it this evening. So should it be voted upon and successful next meeting, it would be very suitable to talk about some expected timelines for returning that report. Because you're right, I appreciate you noticing it. It would take us a bit of time, and we would want to make sure we understand Councillor Gullickson's expected scope of feasibility analysis for it.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Gullickson. And the next item up, we do have several items, I believe 6 proposed, 3 land items for in camera, 1 legal and 2 labor this evening. So given that that may take us a longer period of time than normal, I'm going to do the next meetings prior, and those are as follows. All of them are regular council meetings, and they will be here in council chambers held at 5:30 p.m. on each and every date. Those being Monday, July 8th, Monday, August the 12th, and Monday, August the 26th. So everyone can add those to their calendars. And I'm not aware of any business that's been overlooked. So I believe that brings us back to section 8 for in-camera items. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we move in camera.
Thank you very much. So that is for consideration for council at 6:52 p.m. Please go ahead and vote. That is unanimously in favor to move in camera. Once we hear from